That's right. We are going to go over 4 tips The Voids taught me about music production. Slanjavan music producers, welcome to Whiskey and Synths. I'm Dave, and this is all about 4 things The Voids taught me about music production, and I can't wait to get into it. This is going to be in a video podcast style, so it's for intermediate, advanced music producers who can take these little things and run with it like a checklist in your own productions. So let's get straight into it. So The Voids had some great things they said about mixing genres. So this is something I personally love. I know a lot of you out there love doing it. So The Voids are a great example of it. 'Cause you know, Julian from The Voids was in the famous indie rock band called The Strokes, and they have elements of that. But he actually said he has always wanted to take the sounds and styles that live at the more obscure end of music spectrum and usher them into the mainstream. So elements of jazz, improv, and mixing genres. And I know he loves classical music, neoclassical music, experimental noise music, but bringing it in and putting it in a package that people can still enjoy, that has like some melody to it, some catchy parts, and really kind of delivering it in that way, which I think is super cool. And he also said that the musicians in The Voids, it's kind of almost like classically trained musicians, because they are like musical ninjas. They're incredible. They spent decades on their craft and instrument. Classically trained musicians with new technology, but also still trying to make it catchy and palatable. And he said, not art for art's sake. Because art for art's sake is kind of important for pushing boundaries, but sometimes it's hard to digest. It's hard for a lot of listeners to really truly enjoy, apart from appreciating it's innovative. So he's like, why don't we get the innovativeness in with the catchiness? And that combination creates something quite cool and unique. And he said the great quote on this is, what the promise of the internet could have been. So yeah, mixing genres is important. Let's find out about the mixing production styles as well. So yeah, on this latest Voids album, they had quite an interesting idea about mixing production styles. So their producer wanted to make it this big studio sound. You know, like classic rock bands would go huge, expensive studios. I think because Julian's success in The Strokes and then The Voids, they kind of had the budget to do that. So they booked Vox in LA, which is a giant kind of studio. But then he said that producer kind of had to pull out due to other things going on. Then they got other producers in, made half the record or about half, and then COVID happened, and then they went to the guitarist's home studio in LA and finished it there. So it's this combination of big studio environment recordings and then basically home studio recordings, which I think is quite cool. So they finished it at Amir, the guitarist, and Beardo's home studio. And he said doing it in a home studio helped as it gave time and comfort, something you don't get in big studios, because even the biggest bands don't have the budget anymore to like stay in giant studios for long extended periods of time. That was more in the 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s, but not so much anymore. And he said previously they were all doing it in the room jamming, but now they were then started to put it together piece by piece. So I thought that was quite a cool idea, and it is something you might be able to achieve as like a sort of independent producer or music maker. For example, maybe you could save up, or maybe your gigs have given you budget to book studio time. Then you take it back to your home studio and do stuff in your home studio with your mates, if you're lucky to have like a DAW interface. So I guess if you're watching this, you probably have that stuff. You're probably a music maker with a home setup, kind of who this channel's aimed at, to be honest. So you could do that. I think that could be a cool shout with your band or your own productions. If you are more of a music producer, just working with yourself, maybe getting out of that home environment and taking some synths, instruments, or book a studio that's got that kind of stuff already, run it through amps, mic it up, and then taking those recordings back home to work on it at home is a good thing to do. And I know St. Vincent has done that, who's I've had a previous podcast on the channel about as well. So you might like, if you want to learn more about this kind of thing, check that out. So the third tip was all about sticking to the demo and the original idea of a project, which is quite cool. So demos are quite important. So you'll record something roughly at home or produce something roughly at home, maybe on your computer. Some people even do it on the bus or the train. And Churches talked about this, having the demo in their main project when they went to properly record it. And Julian and the Voids were talking about this as well. He said Beardo did a demo, that's their guitarist, by the way, who had this kind of electronic Lindrum sound on it, but they decided to keep that style of beat on the thing, and it created this combination of like almost Megadeth style guitars with a Lindrum drum machine, which was quite cool. So he said that drum machine choice can influence the end version, and it almost had a Run DMC vibe for, you know, that Aerosmith Run DMC collaboration, which was cool. So they decided to commit to that sound, because music writing can sometimes be a snapshot of a moment in time, and even though you don't understand why you chose that sound or why that happened, sometimes you've just got to trust that it happened for a reason, and your instinct told you to do it that way for a reason. So when it comes to doing the final project, it's worth committing to that original demo and capturing what that original demo did. So I thought it was a great tip. All right. So everyone, just before we get to our final fourth tip, if you're a music producer struggling to finish your track, I've got a challenge that'll help you out. It's a free 10-day, 10-step challenge that'll take you from a bunch of loops to arrangement, to self-mix, to self-master, and then the opportunity to release it on my label, Tonic Note Records. So those loops you've got, those demos you've got, in 10 days only, could be submitted for release. That, and it's only going to take about 30 minutes a day of your time. So if that sounds good to you, click the link below. I'd love to help you along the way. I'm put on this earth to help music makers like you. So join the 10-day, 10-step challenge to finish that damn track. I'd love to have you on board, and I'll even send you a personal welcome message as well. So that'll help you out, I'm hoping. This next tip should as well. So this next tip is more for the musicians amongst us, and it's layering these recording as a band. And there's no right or wrong answer to that, but they said we all make music all the time individually, and we get together and have moments where we coalesce and it carries on chaotically, which is quite cool. And Alex, the drummer, said everything in art changes. Sometimes when we're together in the room, it happens, we'll walk in and come up with stuff. Other time we have little morsels we bring and we maybe join them together. It's all sort of channels through Julian's incredible curation. He's the maestro who hooks it all up. And there are all kinds of ways we create. Some of the things remain the same and some change. So I think that's cool. It's okay to try different approaches to creating. Do you multi-track things? Do you jam it out with other people? Do you sit in your home studio and just create it from scratch and that is the finished version? And everyone's okay. But I guess what I'm trying to get at here, and what the Voids are saying, is try all those things. And a big thing people have is, I've got writer's block. Well, maybe trying a different approach to your writing or recording is a good thing. And Julian actually said some of the general ways we operate remain, but our inspirations constantly change. I don't think we get hung up on things. We discover new stuff and we're bouncing ideas, trying new things individually and stylistically, which is quite cool. And Alex also said there are also ways of experimenting in creation. Speaking of AI and technology, back in the 70s, you probably put something to tape, splice it, have a good few goes. Today, there's the opportunity to really get into the nitty gritty. You have the facilities to really do what you want. And we've had a lot of fun with that. It really does bring out incredible elements. So it's sort of mixing that traditional approach of using your instruments and playing, and with current, technology like DAWs, getting into the nitty gritty of it as well. But the main point on this final one is layering these recording, doing different techniques in your writing, in your recording, and in your production. And I think the main takeaway is, try lots of different techniques, like was mentioned there. So I hope this helped you guys. 4 tips from the Voids. I loved researching them. Their new album's amazing, so I'll probably have 4 more tips from it as well. The sources are down below if you're interested to research the Voids more. And I want to say thanks for watching this to the end. Remember, I've got my 10-day, 10-step, wrong hand movement, 10-day, 10-step challenge to finish your damn track. If in only 10 days, you'll have it self-mastered and submitted to Tonic Note Records for release on one of our compilations. I mean, hopefully that is too good to be true for you. Sign up below. I'll send it out to you, and I'll also give you a personal welcome message as well. Thanks for watching this far. Like I said, I've got loads of other podcasts on the channel. But maybe you should just close that computer now and go on your DAW or your drum machine or your guitar and start making some music. Slanjava music producers, I will catch you later. Whiskey.